The president of America First Legal is Gene Hamilton, and he joins me now. Sir, you oppose birthright citizenship. Why?
Birthright citizenship is inconsistent with the text, the history of the original intent of adopting the 14th Amendment. The language that David just spoke of, the subject to the jurisdiction thereof, has to mean something. The drafters of the amendment would not have included "and subject to the jurisdiction thereof." It would be surplusage. If they could have just simply said that anyone born in the United States is a citizen of the United States. So what I favor is applying the text of the 14th Amendment in the way that the drafters of it intended. And of course, the president's position is correct, because what we get when we have birthright citizenship is we get a draw for more illegal immigration. We get birth tourism. We have all kinds of security and national security risks that come to the American people from a faulty interpretation that has dominated our society until President Trump came along.
What is the significance of the president going to the Supreme Court and listening? He's on the front row, listening and watching the arguments. Is he pressuring the Supremes? Is that what he's trying to do?
I don't think he's trying to pressure anyone. I think that he is listening in to a historic moment and emphasizing to the American people and to the justices as well the importance of this discussion about what it means to be an American citizen. What value is attached to the meaning of being an American is a debate that we need to be having much more of, or a discussion at least, not much of a debate. We need to be talking about this. And so the president's presence there is part of this conversation. It's part of emphasizing the importance of that, who we are, what we believe in, and how significant it is to the future trajectory of this country.
President Trump's been ordered by a judge to halt construction of the White House ballroom, quote, for now. Okay. On what grounds? As a former White House deputy counsel, why did the court stop Trump from doing just about anything?
You know, look, this is just another example of lawfare engaged by the left. The organization that has sued the president here is claiming an aesthetic injury, an associational standing. The notion that any historic preservation group, even ones that have certain structures in existence in history in the United States, have the right, have legal standing to go into court and to stop the president of the United States from working on the White House itself is insane. Look, you can have an ivory tower dispute about who's right and who's wrong, but at the end of the day, our courts of law under Article 3 are there to adjudicate cases and controversies between specific parties to a case. The National Historic Trust Association they have no standing to bring this case. They have no actual harm. It's a ludicrous joke. It's as though a judge is going to be there to tell President Trump when he can and can't change the curtains in the White House if this is allowed to stand.
Fair point. Did any other president get this kind of pushback?
No. I mean, look, no one has been subject to this type of lawfare, this type of Trump derangement syndrome, this type of radical activism like Donald Trump has. He's persevered. He will prevail. They will come out at the end of the day. They will succeed with this case because people all recognize just how absurd it is.
Ask a committee if you can change the curtains. Oh, dear. All right, Gene Hamilton, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it.